Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video I want to talk to you about marijuana and firearms. And this was a particularly interesting article, and I'll put a link to it in the description for the video, because it involves a district attorney, an elected official up in Pennsylvania. Now, you know, I was an assistant state attorney, so some states have district attorneys, some have state attorneys, but it's the same thing. It's the chief, it's the chief law enforcement officer in the county who runs the local prosecutor's office. Now, I was an assistant state attorney, which means I worked under our elected official. So when I was prosecutor, Barry Krischer was the elected state attorney of Palm Beach County. Just recently, we had Dave Ehrenberg, and we have a new state attorney now. But this is the local prosecutor, and this is really interesting. It says, as the top county law enforcement official for more than a decade, former district attorney Rob Green regularly prosecuted crimes involving drugs, even as he often consumed cannabis. The U.S. Army veteran, avid hunter, and father of three is one of 440,000 Pennsylvanians with a state-authorized medical marijuana card under a program lawmakers enacted in 2016. Green, who stepped down as DA earlier this year, says the cannabis he uses once or twice every week or two has significantly improved his quality of life, but also came with what he calls an unconstitutional trade-off. As of right now, I have 0 firearms. I could serve 10 years in prison for having firearms because I am, according to the feds, an illegal user of marijuana. And you'll see in the article there's actually a link to the federal law that basically says, and I'm going to read this to you. The Gun Control Act of 1968 bars 9 categories of individuals from possessing firearms or ammunition. One such prohibition forbids any person who is an unlawful user or addicted to controlled substance from possessing a firearm or ammunition. So that's the law that it's talking about. And if you click on, there's a link in the article, you can read it for yourself. But apparently what's going on here is that the Supreme Court is going to look at this and say, and it says that the Supreme Court will consider whether the gun ban for drug users is unconstitutionally broad in a high-stakes case at the center of growing debate as to whether marijuana deserves a carve-out in the law. As there are certain drugs that are so dangerous and addictive that it's not safe for you to have a firearm, said Green, marijuana is not one of them. That means 6 million registered medical marijuana patients across 40 states must surrender their Second Amendment right to own a gun as long as they are using. I think there's all kinds of issues here. First of all, unless you are open about the fact that you're using, then how does anybody know? I think also, if it's legal under state law, and I'm just putting my lawyer hat on for a second, so bear with me while I work through this in my mind, you can probably hear the wheels turning. If it's legal under state law, okay, is it okay for the feds to say, well, I get it. State of Pennsylvania says you can have it for medicinal purposes, but guess what? We're basically revoking your Second Amendment constitutional right to bear arms. There's a real issue going on here. And I know that the Trump administration has talked about loosening, restrictions on marijuana. I think they want to reclassify it. And look, marijuana's been illegal under federal law for years, okay? But all of these states have legalized it, either for medicinal, some even for recreational. And I don't see any, there's no federal prosecutions going on here, right? Just for simply purchasing it, if it's legal under state law. But apparently they're going to they have been allowing you to purchase under state law, but you can't have a firearm. And I think one of the things they're talking about is, well, we don't want people walking around high, having a firearm. Well, we have DUI laws in the states that don't permit you to drive high either. And if you get caught, you get arrested. If you drive high and kill somebody, well, you're going to get prosecuted with some type of vehicular homicide, depending on the state, depending on the facts. But you get the idea, right? So I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting case, and I would not be shocked if the Supreme Court turned around and said, you can't do this. That's just my gut, okay? I think we have a conservative Supreme Court. I think they believe in the Second Amendment, and I think they're going to say, look, you cannot take away his Second Amendment right, okay? You cannot have a law that says he cannot have a firearm when he's not actually broken any laws, right? You can't. I mean, that law, that federal law, is unconstitutional. He's done nothing wrong, because in his own state, what he's doing is perfectly legal. So, just my gut, I think the Supreme Court's is gonna stand on this and say, hey, he gets his firearms back. He has a right to possess a firearm. He has a Second Amendment right, and Uncle Sam doesn't get to take that away, because what he's doing under state law doesn't really pass federal muster, even though it's legal under state law. So a very interesting topic here. I think what makes it really interesting is that this guy was an elected official. He was the top, the top cop in his particular, county, his circuit, and he gave up his office that he was elected to so he could use marijuana. Very interesting. That's all I have to say about that. So I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. I know I've sort of ruffled a few feathers when I've talked about marijuana in the past. I've been called the party pooper amongst other things, but I think this is an interesting issue, and I'd really like to hear what you have to say. Do you think he should have a Second Amendment right? Do you think he should not? What are your feelings about that? Guns, marijuana. I want to hear all about what you have to say. Please be respectful, okay? For the most part, I've had some great interaction with folks watching these videos. I get the occasional person who thinks it's that it's an excuse to stand on a bully pulpit. No, you don't get to bully me or anybody else that wants to post in the video. We're here to have a conversation, even if we agree to disagree. Okay, that's what it's all about. So please be respectful. If you're seeing an issue in your family and you want a video made, let me know. I'll make you a video. Because if it's affecting your family, it's probably affecting somebody else's, and I want you to get that information. If you like this content, please give me a thumbs up, and if you want more of it, please subscribe to the channel. I put out a video or two, or sometimes even 3, every single day, so you can get the information you need, so you can decide, do you want to have a conversation with us about what options may or may not be available to you, legal and non-legal. So anyway, with that said, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.